Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Trump vows strong action if protesters are hanged in Iran. Protesting and says help is on its way as death toll climbs to at least 2,000. Iran accuses US of seeking pretext for military intervention. India and the US discuss trade, critical minerals and nuclear power as US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar hold a phone call. At least 19 dead and around 80 injured after a construction crane collapsed onto a moving train in Thailand. Rescue operations underway. US designates Egyptian, Lebanese and Jordanian branches of the Muslim Brotherhood as global terrorists, citing their support for Hamas. Egypt welcomes the move while the group vows to challenge the decision. And in cricket, India to take on New Zealand in the second ODI in Rajkot with an aim to seal the series. Men in Blue lead with 1-0 in the 3-match series. The death toll from protests in Iran has reached 2,571, the US-based HRANA rights group said on Wednesday, while US President Donald Trump warned of unspecified very strong action if Iranian authorities go ahead with threatened hangings of some protesters, with Iran calling American warnings a pretext for military intervention. We get to a detailed report.
Tensions in Iran continue to escalate. For the first time, authorities have given an overall death toll since the protest began on 28th of December last year. US President Donald Trump warned Iran that the United States would react strongly if authorities in Iran started hanging people in their crackdown on uprising against the government, and assured that help was on its way, urging protesters to continue their demonstrations. Trump also cancelled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stopped. Trump comments came after Iranian authorities said that they will press charges punishable by death against some individuals arrested during recent demonstrations.
You're going to have to figure that one out, I'm sorry.
How many people have been killed in Iran?
Nobody's been able to give me an accurate number. I have heard numbers from everything's a lot. One is a lot. But I've heard numbers much lower and I've heard numbers much higher. We'll be knowing. We're probably going to find out over the next 24 hours. I think it's a lot.
Trump didn't reveal if any decision about Iran was made, instead informing that he expected an update on the situation soon.
Iran is on my mind when I see the kind of death that is happening over there, we think. So we're going to get some accurate numbers. I'll have it in about 20 minutes. We'll get some accurate numbers as to what's happening with regard to the killing. The killing looks like it's significant, but we don't know yet for certain. I'll know within 20 minutes. So, and we'll act accordingly.
Iran accused the United States of trying to create a justification for military intervention. In a post on X, Iran's mission to the United Nations said US fantasies and policy towards Iran are rooted in regime change, with sanctions, threats, engineered unrest and chaos serving as the modus operandi to manufacture a pretext for military intervention. The protest began over the fall in value of the currency and have grown into wider demonstrations and calls for the fall of the clerical establishment. Bureau Report, DD India.
Up next, we get to a chronology of major events in relations between Iran and the United States. In 1953, the CIA helped orchestrate overthrow of Iran's Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, restoring to power Shah Mohammad Raza Pahlavi. In 1957, US and Iran signed an agreement over civil nuclear cooperation. In 1967, US provided Iran with a nuclear reactor along with weapons-grade 93% enriched uranium fuel. In 1968, Iran signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. In 1979, Iran's Islamic Revolution forced US-backed Shah to flee Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini becomes the supreme religious guide. In 1980, the U.S. cut diplomatic ties with Iran. Hostage rescue mission ordered by President Jimmy Carter failed. In 1981, Iran released 52 U.S. hostages. In 1984, U.S. listed Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism. In 1988, the U.S. mistakenly shot down Iranian passenger plane over the Gulf, killing all the 290 aboard. In 2002, President George W. Bush declares Iran, Iraq, North Korea an axis of evil. In 2012, U.S. and Iranian officials began secret talks, which intensified in 2013 on the nuclear issue. In 2018, President Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal. He reimposed crippling economic sanctions on Iran. In 2019, U.S. designated Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Come 2020, the U.S. airstrike in Baghdad killed Special Forces Commander Qasem Soleimani. In 2025, Trump signed presidential memorandum reimposing Washington's tough policy on Iran. In 2025, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei rejected Donald Trump's demand for unconditional surrender. In June the same year, U.S. struck 3 Iranian nuclear strikes. The United States on Tuesday designated the Egyptian, Lebanese and Jordanian branches of the Muslim Brotherhood as global terrorists. The move, which Washington formally set in motion last November, will bring sanctions against one of the Arab world's oldest and most influential Islamist movements. Washington accused the trio of supporting or encouraging violent attacks against Israel and U.S. partners, citing in part what it called their support for Palestinian terrorist group Hamas. Egypt's foreign ministry welcomed the move, describing it as a crucial step that reflects the gravity of the group and its extremist ideology. It added that the group represents a direct threat of regional and international security and stability. The Muslim Brotherhood won Egypt's first free presidential election in 2012, but was overthrown by the military a year later after mass protests against its rule and has endured a fierce crackdown by authorities since then. In the days since deposing Nicolas Maduro, President Trump has given several justifications for his dramatic action in Venezuela. But the thing Trump is most focused on is that he keeps pointing to as central to his ambitions is oil, specifically opening Venezuela's vast oil fields to American companies. He reiterated the same yet again on Tuesday while speaking at an event in Detroit. He said that the U.S. is taking in millions and millions of barrels of oil worth billions of dollars from the South American country, and in the passage, it will try to make that country very strong again.
We're bringing Venezuela back, and we're going to be great for Venezuela, great for our country. We're taking in, as I said, millions and millions of barrels of oil, and now they're coming in initially on a daily basis, 50 million, and values of over $5 billion. That's in one day. We're going to work with Venezuela. We'll make that country very strong again. We'll get oil prices down even further. We have it down at about a 6-year low, 7-year low, but we're going to get it down.
Meanwhile, Washington continues to consolidate control of oil shipments in and out of Caracas. The U.S. government has filed for court warrants to seize dozens more tankers linked to the Venezuelan oil trade. The U.S. military and Coast Guard have seized 5 vessels in recent weeks in international waters that were either carrying Venezuelan oil or have done so in the past. Trump imposed a blockade to prevent sanctioned tankers from shipping Venezuelan oil in December that brought exports close to a standstill. Shipments have resumed this week under U.S. supervision. Venezuela's state energy company PDVSA has begun reversing oil production cuts made under a strict U.S. oil embargo as crude exports resume under U.S. supervision. The state company is now instructing the joint ventures to resume output from well clusters that were shut. Meanwhile, the third oil tanker set sail from Venezuela's coast on Tuesday, signaling a Bahamas terminal as destination. Notably, the OPEC members' oil exports fell close to zero in the weeks after the U.S. imposed a blockade on oil shipments in December, with only US oil major Chevron exporting crude from its joint ventures with PDVSA under the US license. The social network X was once again accessible in Venezuela on Tuesday, more than a year after users were blocked by deposed President Nicolas Maduro, who was captured by US forces last week. After the July 2024 election, Maduro was declared the winner amid allegations of fraud and suspended the platform in August. Prior to that, X had been a prominent social media network for Venezuelans, but the blockade meant ministers, lawmakers, and government institutions stopped updating their pages. The Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers plan to tell Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio during a White House meeting on Wednesday that Greenland is not for sale and will remain under Danish governance. The meeting comes after days of threats by Trump to use military force to seize the autonomous Danish territory. NATO too said that it is discussing next steps to maintain security in the Arctic, which European Union countries are considering invoking the mutual defense clause of the EU treaty. We get to a report.
Diplomacy has intensified in the Arctic Circle amid Trump's warning of taking control over Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark. In a high-stakes attempt to lower the temperature, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen and Greenlandic counterpart Vivian will meet US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington on Wednesday. Meanwhile, taking a stricter stand, Greenland Prime Minister has categorically ruled out joining the US and said the Arctic territory prefers to be in a union with Denmark. He is now suggesting putting independence plans on the back burner for now.
Greenland does not want to be owned by the USA. Greenland does not want to be governed by the USA. Greenland will not be part of the USA. We choose the Greenland we know today, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Now we are faced with a geopolitical crisis. And if we have to choose between the USA and Denmark here and now, we choose Denmark. We choose NATO. We choose the Kingdom of Denmark. We choose the EU. This is not the time for internal discussion and division. This is the time to stand together and build on the community we know and we want.
The sentiment was echoed by his Danish counterpart, while Trump strongly dismissed the remarks.
This is not just about Greenland or the kingdom. It is about not being able to change borders by force, not being able to buy another people, and it is about small countries not having to fear big countries. That is why we are clearly speaking out, and that is why many allies are doing the same, in the Nordic countries, in Europe, and in the rest of the world.
Well, that's their problem. That's their problem. I disagree with him. I don't know who he is, don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him.
Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister has said that both Greenland and Denmark should decide the future of the island.
He should rather focus.
Residents in Greenland's capital have also expressed support for remaining part of Denmark. Trump's administration has repeatedly claimed Greenland's strategic importance to US national security. While Denmark has ruled Greenland for centuries, the territory has gradually been moving towards independence since 1979. Denmark now faces growing pressure to bolster Arctic defenses to counter geopolitical tensions. Danish Defense Minister plans to meet NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels next week, with multinational NATO exercises in Greenland scheduled by 2026. Bureau Report, DD India.
Demonstrations continued nearly a week after an ICE officer fatally shot 37-year-old Renee Good. 4 senior Justice Department civil rights lawyers resigned amid criticism of the agency's handling of the case. We get your detailed report.
Federal agents and protesters clashed in St. Paul and Minneapolis, with officers using flashbangs, tear gas and pepper balls to disperse the crowds. 4 senior civil rights lawyers at the U.S. Justice Department have resigned in recent days, departures that were prompted in part by a decision to sideline their unit from investigating the fatal shooting of a Minnesota woman. Further, at least a dozen federal prosecutors have indicated plans to leave the U.S. Justice Department over the Trump administration's handling of the shooting. The departures also renewed concerns about the federal investigation, which has prompted protests nationwide and drawn intense scrutiny of the Trump administration's sweeping immigration crackdown in US cities. Democratic officials are particularly critical of the fact that local authorities have been excluded from the investigation, which is being conducted by the FBI. The fallout has moved beyond the borders. The United Nations voiced deep concern at the killing of a 37-year-old Rini Nicole Good and demanded a swift and independent investigation. Bureau Report, DD India.
US President Donald Trump welcomed December inflation figures released on Tuesday, saying they supported his push for Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. Core consumer inflation eased to 2.6% year-on-year, slightly below expectations, while headline inflation held all steady at 2.7%, unchanged from November. Trump said the figures showed inflation was very low and claimed this should prompt Fed Chair Jerome Powell to deliver a significant rate cut. Speaking to reporters before leaving for Detroit, Trump also highlighted what he described as falling crime rates, citing places such as Minnesota and Chicago, and credited his administration's actions against criminals who entered the U.S. illegally. Despite monthly price increase, reinforcing expectations that rates will stay unchanged, Trump again criticized Powell, calling him incompetent or crooked. This amid growing backlash over an investigation into the Fed chair.
The inflation numbers just came out, and we have very low inflation, so that would give Too-Late Powell the chance to give us a nice, beautiful, big rate cut, which would be great for the country. Well, he's billions of dollars over budget, so he either is incompetent or he's crooked. I don't know what he is, but he doesn't do a very good job.
The heads of major central banks rallied behind the U.S. Federal Reserve and its chair, Jerome Powell, stressing that protecting central bank independence was essential. Their joint statement followed an unprecedented move by U.S. prosecutors, who issued subpoenas threatening criminal charges against Powell, widely viewed as an escalation of President Trump's campaign against the Fed. Powell responded by pledging to pursue monetary policy free from political influence. The statement, backed by leaders including ECB Chief Christine Lagarde and Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey, praised Powell's integrity and commitment to the public interest. Trump, however, accused Powell of mismanaging an expensive Fed headquarters renovation and questioned his competence. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon warned that political pressure on the Fed could prove counterproductive. Former Fed leaders and some Republican senators also condemned the investigation as an attack on Fed's independence. A train traveling from Thailand's capital to the country's northeast was derailed on Wednesday after a construction crane fell on top of one of its carriages, killing at least 19 people and injuring 80 others. The incident occurred on Wednesday at around 2 GMT when a crane being used to build the high-speed rail network fell onto a passenger train in Nakhon Ratchasima, northeast of central Bangkok. The crane collapsed and hit the passing train, causing it to derail and briefly catch fire. Fire has been extinguished and rescue work is now in progress. Transport Minister said that 195 people were on board the train and authorities were rushing to identify the deceased.
India's maritime security. Why India's successful conduct of long-duration ground test of scramjet combustor so strategic for India's hypersonic missile program. And in my take, we decode why Pakistan is pushing the JF-17 across the Islamic world. Watch Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India Live. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a telephonic conversation with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Tuesday. The two leaders held detailed discussion on trade, critical minerals, nuclear cooperation, defense and energy. Both the sides agreed to remain in touch on these and other issues as well. India has underscored the importance of securing critical mineral supply chains to power its clean energy and electronics growth. In attendance at a high-level ministerial meeting in the US, India's Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that access to critical minerals is vital for India's manufacturing resilience and climate goals. The Indian government is advancing the push through the National Critical Minerals Mission to support energy transition and electric mobility. As the nation is celebrating Pongal, a 4-day harvest festival, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today attended the celebrations at the residence of Union Minister of State L. Murugan here in New Delhi. The Prime Minister performed puja and added rice to the boiling Pongal pot, a symbolic gesture signifying prosperity, and offered prayers as devotional chants were sung. The Prime Minister also fed cows as part of Matu Pongal, the second day of the festival dedicated to honouring cattle, a cornerstone of the agrarian life. The Prime Minister also shook hands and gave autographs to people attending the event.
பொங்கல் படைத்து உழவு தொழிலுக்கும் உழைப்பிற்கு
Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said, today Pongal has become a global festival. He added that across the world, the Tamil community and those who appreciate Tamil culture celebrate Pongal with great enthusiasm, and he was proud to be one of them.
मैं एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत की जिस भावना की बात करता हूं, उसे पोंगल जैसे पर्व और सशक्त बनाते हैं। पोंगल का त्योहार हमें प्रेरित करता है कि प्रकृति के प्रति आभार केवल शब्दों तक सीमित न रहे, उसे हम जीवन शैली का हिस्सा बनाएं। जब ये धरती हमें इतना कुछ देती है, उसे संजोने का दायित्व भी हमारा है। अगली पीढ़ी के लिए मिट्टी को स्वस्थ रखना, पानी को बचाना और संसाधनों का संतुलित उपयोग करना सबसे जरूरी है। मिशन लाइफ, एक पेड़ मां के नाम, अमृत सरोवर जैसे हमारा अभियान इसी भावना को आगे बढ़ाते हैं।
Prime Minister also said that Pongal celebrates the vibrant Tamil culture and our bond with nature. He wished that the festival brings prosperity and happiness to everyone's life.
तमिल संस्कृति दुनिया की सबसे प्राचीन जीवित सभ्यताओं में से एक है। तमिल संस्कृति सदियों को जोड़ती है। वो इतिहास से सीखकर वर्तमान को आगे का रास्ता दिखाती है। इसी प्रेरणा से आज का भारत अपनी जड़ों से शक्ति लेकर नई संभावनाओं की ओर आगे बढ़ रहा है।
And now let's talk of sports. India take on New Zealand in the second one-day international in Rajkot on Wednesday with an aim to seal the series. With 1-0 lead in the 3-match series, Men in Blue will hope to press the home advantage to gain the decisive lead. But Kiwis are not a pushover, as they have shown their mettle in the opener by putting up a spirited fight. The stage is set for a thrilling contest with both the teams vying for the crucial win. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.